Hi. Okay, welcome to another video from Matt's class. And today I'll be talking about four things I wish I knew before becoming a teacher. So I'll be talking about some ideas and I'm going to be giving some practical tips about, four things that I did. And when I first want to talk about my journey to become a teacher really quick, I graduated with a bachelor's in English and then I couldn't get a job. And my mom told me about substitute teaching, and I was substitute teaching for about 6 months before I ended up becoming a teacher, a full time teacher at the school I was substituting at every day. And I ended up getting a temporary license just because I didn't get a bachelor's in education. I got in English. So, but yeah, and I ended up teaching at that middle school for about a year and a half. So yeah, that was my journey to teaching, and in that short year and a half, I'm gonna tell you what I learned because. And the first thing I will say is everything that I'm saying, I want to preface with the idea that I love teaching. Um, I want to teach for the rest of my life, and I will find a way to teach for the rest of my life, even if it doesn't look like as a job or as a job as a public school teacher. So I love teaching, and everything I'm saying, even though it's true, it doesn't mean that you should not teach. Maybe just think about different ways that you can teach. So the first one is I didn't realize how emotionally draining it could be. Like when I tell you it took every part of me as a teacher. My planning period was the last period of the day, and I know they want you to call parents and emails, update grades. When I tell you I was in that room, my feet up, that window open, relaxing, like deep relaxing, deep breaths, almost sleep. Actually, sometimes sleep because it's draining. I didn't realize how much emotions because I was dealing with middle schoolers. So, you're regulating their emotions, you're regulating your emotions. Tackling that every day was very draining for me. And there are a lot of times where I just had nothing. I felt like a deflated balloon. And I realized that as emotionally draining that teaching can be, that sort of like deflation is not sustainable for me. So I came up with some ways to kind of keep me going. And one of those ways was I set my classroom up in a way that naturally relaxed me. So I'm a person, I love being outside. I love the sun. So I never had the lights on in my class, but I had a lot of windows. So I always had the windows maybe open for like a breeze. The idea of like the outside coming inside like naturally relaxed me. So natural light and maybe like a breeze or something like that. So that was one thing. I always had music playing, whether it was calming music, whether it was just funny music, but I always had some music playing sometime during class, whether it was in my break, whether it was in my planning period, whether and I also incorporated a lot of scents in my classroom. I really love like floral, flowery, really pretty scents. I always had that like behind my desk, so that would naturally relax me. And these are just like three small things that I did to naturally relax myself so I didn't feel as defeated sometimes. It's just kind of one of those things that come with the job. I think different classrooms or different like grades, different things out of you. Like I said, I did middle school. That was really draining for me. College is not as draining for me, but it's more like pulling teeth. So please figure out ways to safeguard your emotions or be proactive about maintaining and regulating your emotions in small ways. It doesn't have to be big, you know, but focus on the small ways to regulate your emotions throughout the day, and it will do wonders for you down the line. Another thing I did to kind of regulate my emotions was I used my PTO and I used it in a way that gave me natural breaks. So I know we have the weekends and stuff, and that's like a natural break for us. And then we have the traditional breaks like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that also gives us a break. But I utilize my breaks. So if there was a workshop that was coming out pretty soon, I would book my workshop in the middle of the week. I book on Wednesday. So I'm here Monday, Tuesday. I'm gone Wednesday. I come back on Thursday and Friday. If it's 2 day, even better. But I would schedule my workshops and my like instructional things I had to do for my certificate. I would structure it in a way that gave me a natural break throughout the weeks and stuff like that. And that'll always bring my energy back. Like time away from the classroom is very important as a teacher. Teaching does not have to break you. Okay. It will bend you. Yeah. But it doesn't have to break you. My second thing I wish I knew before becoming a teacher is that teaching is a box. And it is a box that I am still trying to get out of. Teaching is a box for a couple reasons. Like, one, financially. When I first started teaching, I was 21. And as a 21-year old with not a lot of responsibilities, like, it was okay. It was cool. But as I'm getting older, I'm realizing how much money teachers are getting. And I'm not necessarily in a state that prioritizes education because I still want to teach, right? So how can I make teaching the best way for me? Teaching is a box financially because, like I said, we're not allocated a lot of finances. Um, Teaching is generally kind of disregarded and unappreciated in our society. You will hear teachers all the time talking about, like, I wish I chose something that made a lot more money. But I think teaching is also a box in terms of when you're trying to leave teaching. When I look up jobs now, my jobs are tutoring, my jobs are being a teacher, working in the office, admin, principal. They're all teacher related. And like I said, I'm still young, I'm still early in my career. And even right now, I'm getting my master's in creative writing, but everything leads towards being a teacher. And I'm like, man, like, is there something that I can, like, how can I pivot out of this? If I wanted to pivot, right? If teaching was really not for me, like, how can I pivot? And I just wish that there were more resources. And I found it the hardest, especially during the summer breaks. I found it the hardest to get a job that didn't revolve around teaching. I want to be an educator the rest of my life. And like I said, it does not have to look like as a teacher. But right now, it can be frustrating. And right now, I'm actively working towards a way to make teaching a career, not just a job. It doesn't mean that I don't want to teach. It just means I need to look and rethink and reimagine what that looks like for me. Okay. So yeah, teaching the box. Don't get stuck in that box. Do not get stuck in that box. Teaching is always something that will be there. It's always available. There will always be a shortage of teachers. So you need a fallback year, or you just want a job where they have plenty of breaks. Teaching is a job for you. But long term, if you want to make more money and stuff like that, see if you can pivot. Just because you are a teacher does not mean you have to stay a teacher. The third thing that I wish I knew before becoming a teacher was that teaching is a mirror. And I say that because, and it makes sense now that I think about it, because you are building a relationship with a class or a set of students and stuff like that. And relationships will always show you who you actually are. I don't care what you think you are, but you're not that. And before becoming a teacher, I still consider myself a very chill, very fun, easygoing person. And I really wanted to maintain that because like I said, I was coming from a substitute and then I was a teacher. So I was that cool substitute. Okay. But when I became a teacher, I couldn't be that cool substitute anymore. I was a little bit more passive. I didn't like conflict. And as a teacher, as a middle school teacher, it just wasn't going to fly. Like, it wasn't going to happen. Like, I could not show up the way I wanted to, being passive, being scared of conflict, not like being afraid to set hard boundaries to put myself out there. I realized that the character development I received from being a teacher has really shaped me in a way that, like, has been indispensable for me, even in terms of my relationships and how I show up in life. When I'm having a bad day, it shows up in the classroom. I think oftentimes we can put so much responsibility on the class, like, oh my gosh, this class is horrible, this class is da da da. But, like, are you really putting in the work to make this a healthy environment? Like, are you showing up with your A game? Like, are you filling your cup up in a way that when something happens, you're not exploding, or you're not yelling at the students, or you're just not blowing up? I'm a big believer in control what I can control. If everything is good and working in your favor, and then you have a classroom or it's just not working, then it just might not be working in that class. It might be time to adjust. But I just know so many things affect me as a woman, as a teacher, and I carry that into the classroom. And like I said, how they respond sometimes is a direct reflection of that. And I think that's something to remember, that sometimes it is you. Sometimes you're being a butthole to those kids and they are just simply acting on that. Sometimes you haven't been able to get sleep for a long time, and then your crabbiness is shrouding that classroom. And I'm not saying it's not the kids sometimes, because a lot of times it is, but it might be you. And if it's you, that's fine, because that means the power is in your hand to change it. But I mean, I just never forget. A student came up to me, he's like, Miss Reeves, like this is the first time like you've been real uptight, you've been real like short with us, like, and now it's just like you're back to who you are. And I was like, dang, like I didn't notice that I was like, y'all could feel that like I was impacting the class like that. What you see in your worst moments, what you see reflected is really how you are. And like I said, just always take it as a learning opportunity to be better and do better. And like I said, it's also made me better in my own relationships. And I'm gonna tell you why and for. So the fourth thing that I wish I knew before I was a teacher is just really how much you don't have to stand on business. Like I am not. I'm telling you, 3 months and I was almost done. I almost quit. I had a great relationship with my students, but I could not, for the life of me, get a hold on. All my classes had different personalities. All of them had different challenges, and before I became a teacher, like I said, I was very passive. I didn't like conflict. But man, one thing I told myself was I will not be here 40 hours a week and be tormented or bullied or just agonized and off 40 hours a week by some 12 to 13-year olds. Like I can't do it. I spend too much time here to spend every day here unhappy. That was just not going to happen. And when I say stand on business, I really meant like developing a system of sustainable behaviors, right? I came to realize that there are a few non-negotiables that I had to learn. Okay, I know there's teachers with 100 rules. You don't need 100 rules. You need maybe 3 to 5 hard rules that you need to stand on every time, and then everything else can be flexible, right? So some things like I did not want my class is I don't like eating in my class. When they eat, they get comfortable, they get messy, it's all over the place. They feel like they can just eat at any and every time. Can't do it. Okay. Another hard rule I had was no cussing. Hey, you can, if you're upset or something, you can get your point across without cussing. So every time it's on language, yeah, watch your language. I only had like 3 to 4 core rules that I was like, hey, every time you mess up, we gon' because you already know, right? And then everything else was kind of flexible. But I kind of built my classroom, rules and philosophy on things I just really wanted to see in my classroom. Not what I wanted, did not want to see, but what I wanted to see. I say staying on business, I'm saying that any behavior that I could not see myself or I didn't want to deal with later, I didn't want it in there. For example, I had a kid who always wanted to be in the mirror, always wanted to check and groom themselves. And, on my good days, on my best days, like it really doesn't bother me. Like the idea, like you trying to see like what's going on up here or whatever, cool, like that's fine. But I ask myself, like, hey, do I want this happening every day? Do I want this to become such like a staple in my classroom for this one student doing it that a bunch of other people can do it? Or and this person really did it out of convenience. Like the mirror TV projector screen was just close, like it was just in their face. So they're just kind of always there. But did I want this practice to be extended to all my students? Um, did I want to wait too long and be like, hey, like after like weeks, I'd be like, hey, like I don't want y'all to do that no more. They're gonna be like, well, we've been doing it. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, I always think about the consequences of if I allowed this behavior to keep going, and that had really like tightened up my classroom management because in my head I was like, if I sit here and suffer this today and I don't like how it's making me feel and I don't like how it's showing up my classroom, if I don't say something now, then for the next days days or possibly weeks, I'm going to be aggravated by the same thing. And if it's not worth it, like if it's not worth it for me to be stressed out or aggravated or annoyed for the next couple days, couple weeks, I need to say something right now. And that's pretty much how I managed it. And by staying on business, developing sustainable systems for myself, it would become the norm for you to know what is the same in your classroom and just stand on it. Like I said, people, students, pets, everything reacts to what's already there, you know? So if you want to change something in your classroom, you can do that. But staying on business has just really just changed the way I just looked at everything. Like I said, if it's not sustainable for me, I'm gonna let you know, hey, like this is not it's not sustainable for me. I can't do it. How can we change it? And it has helped me at middle school. It helps me in college. It helps me in the workplace. even when I'm not teaching. And just this idea of like developing sustainable systems for your workplace, for your students. I wish I knew that before because it would have saved me so much time. The teacher I was in quarter four, if that was me in quarter one, boy, we would have we achieved great things. We achieved a lot of things, but it took me all year to get there, and it was my first year, so I'm gonna give myself grace. But teacher quarter four, whole different beast than quarter one. Quarter one teacher, quarter one with me, I was like a leaf in the wind. Okay, and all these things that I'm talking about, the things that I wish I knew before as teacher, it's not necessarily bad things, but these are just problems that I have seen and that still kind of experience and just things to think about. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't stop teaching. It doesn't mean that you should just quit your job tomorrow. It just means that you should figure out a way for you to sustain being a teacher. All these things had helped me stay being a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, but I was like, how can I do it? And how can I sustain myself? How can I do it and I'm not emotionally drained and pissed off every day? How can I do it and I'm not like going home crying because my students are just awful? Like, how can I stick out and be here? So these are just four things I wish I knew before becoming a teacher. I don't think um it would have stopped me from being a teacher, but boy, like I said, quarter four me versus quarter one me, not a chance. Thank you for coming to maths class, and I will have a blessed day, and I hope to see you later. Bye.